Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to cover how to animate a bouncing ball. And in the Canvas shell I've included a link to the actual file so you can download that. Once you have it downloaded, I want you to go ahead and open it. File, open. Open. It may come up with a little pop-up window. Don't worry about it, just ignore it. It says a file contains mental ray nodes. Mental ray is an old renderer that Maya used to come in with default, similar to Arnold, except different, which they no longer include in the software by default. So anyway, you can click do not show this message again in the future, and just click OK. You may get something else that says errors have occurred while reading the scene that may result in data loss. Please check the script editor. And I'm going to go ahead and press OK. It looks like it's just the mental ray. Right here, this is at the bottom, this is what it's referring to as the script editor. If you click this little button, in case you ever run into some kind of error that you're curious and want more details on, your script editor will have it right here. And it looks like it's just it can't recognize the mental ray node, so that's no big deal. And that's about it. And the render mental ray is used in the scene is currently not available, which is totally fine. The Arnold renderer will be used instead. Okay. Anyway, so we don't need to worry about that at the moment. But as long as you open the file and it looks like this, you're good to go. So one of the first things I want to cover with you is what this actually is. So you may open the file, it might look like this. Just press 6 on your keyboard. So what this is just a bouncing ball, and you'll notice down here it has an R on here, means renderable, which means you cannot select it. Any rig, this is known as an animation rig, probably the first one you've ever used before, at least in 3D, will not allow you to select the mesh because they don't want you to move the mesh. That's what the controllers are for. So one of the first things I want to cover with you is what these controllers actually do. So the main one is the master control, and what that does is it has the ability to be moved in all directions and rotated, and you can rotate the ball in any direction also. Okay, so that's just to start. Then we have our up control, and what this does is it can stretch the ball up and down. So this would be good for squash and stretch, one of the I believe it's the first principle of the 12 principles of animation. So that allows us to get some really cool sort of cartoony movements. Same thing on the bottom. That's what these little oval, semi-oval sort of controllers do. And 0 is always going to be your default starting point if you would like it to return to its natural shape or original shape when you loaded the file. The other thing we have here is our it has it locked on the translate, so I can't move those. But what this does, excuse me, you'll notice as it rotates the handles, and what that does is it allows us to squash and stretch the ball from a different angle, so you don't have to do it at that other point. Okay, and that's really all there is to it. Let's go ahead and get animating. So the first thing I want to do is down here, I probably only need like 25 frames. I just put 25 in here because it's just going to be easier for me to work with. Okay, so I've got 25 different frames in here, and I'm going to go ahead and start to animate. And even right before I do that, the first thing I want to do is I want to create a ground plane, so I have something for this ball to bounce on. Okay, Alright. So, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch into my side viewport. And I'm going to go ahead and bring this ball up. And we're just going to have it bounce once. We're going to create a squash and stretch and have it return back up. So it's just going to bounce once. That's all we're looking for. So in order to start setting keyframes for animation, we press S. Now if you notice, my first frame now has a little red line next to it. That means there's a keyframe set there. Then I'm going to go to frame 12, and I'm going to go ahead and animate down. Now, another thing I want to include, excuse me, another thing I want to include is a specialized button that will select all of these controllers at the same time. So I can set a keyframe on all of them simultaneously. But at the moment, I have a pretty good start. Okay, so I have the ball going up and down. And you can also press 4, 5, 6. I'm going to leave it in 4 mode for now because I can see the blue line. I know where it is, but just for that purpose. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to go back to my very first frame, and I'm going to switch into my perspective mode just to double check and make sure I got every controller selected. Okay. And I'm going to go to Create, and they used to include a custom tab here. Oh, there it is. Switch to your custom tab and go to Create, and we're going to go Set and Quick Select Set. And we're going to call this All. And then go ahead and hit Add to Shelf. And make sure you're on your custom shelf. So now All. So now when I click this button, it selects all of the controls for me on that particular mesh. So on frame 1, I'm going to press S for all of my controls, and then I'm going to scrub through, and on my frame 12, I'm also going to press S. And on my frame 1, there's 2 ways you can do this. You can copy the exact information that you see here. And I'm going to go to my 24th frame. And I could copy that information, or if with all of my buttons selected, and I hold my middle mouse button click, I'm going to drag all the way over here to frame 24. All I did was click on my first frame. I'll do it one more time. Hold middle mouse button click and slide all the way over to the right. And I'm going to press S. Oop. And now you're going to see that it just goes right back and returns to its exact starting position. Now, that being said, I can hit play down here, and you'll see it loops automatically. If you have some weird playback info, press right click on the play button, Playback Speed, and you can do play every frame free, play every frame max real time, or just do real time. So now we're in real time bouncing mode. Now, a couple other things I want to do is on my frame, I guess my frame frame, let's say frame 8. I'm going to go ahead and have this stretch, and I'm going to press S. And all S. So it's going to go whoop, and then here, when it makes contact, I'm going to grab this controller again, and I'm going to have it mush or squash. So now I'm going to select all and hit S. So now when I hit play, I'm starting to get a lot more movement in that. So I'm going to go ahead and scrub back to the beginning. I'm going to hit play. And I'm starting to get some really cool lifelike sort of features just by adding that squash and stretch. It adds a lot more life to the animation. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is, I did frame 8, so I'm going to do 16. I'm going to go ahead and drag this back up and press S, and all S. This is just a really common thing to do with an animation rig, is to make sure you set keyframe all. In some cases you don't want to do that. In this one, I just wanted to kind of show you how to do it. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and hit play one more time. Oop. And that's really all there is to it. So I've got my frame 1. Okay, I'm going to hit play. And you see, I've got my bouncing ball animation. Okay, so that's all there is to it. Go ahead and save out your file, and make sure you don't forget to submit. And then thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next lab. Thank you.